What is up, people of the multiverse? Welcome back to a brand new Crisis on Infinite Earths review, and of course this is for parts 4 and 5, the 2-hour finale. And wow, it's ended, and this is going to be a lot to talk about. I just want to let you know I might not talk about every single minuscule detail, but I'll try my best to go over like the most important things. This video is probably and understandably going to be a long one, so grab a drink, grab some food, and let's get into this. But most importantly, guys, I would love to know your opinions on everything. Overall, I do want to premise this review by just saying, as this is my finale review, that Crisis on Infinite Earths has been an extremely ambitious and successful, for the most part, spectacle. I really enjoyed a lot of parts. I didn't, enjoy so much some other parts, but, I'm not going to sit here and say that it wasn't a really, really fantastic accomplishment. And I feel like with part 4 and part 5, they did what they needed to do. One of the most important things is that, it really focused on Oliver quite naturally, and what we probably all wanted it to be, just, surrounding Oliver Queen, going out very, very strong, and he definitely got that. And holy crap, was there some incredibly surprising moments. I'm kind of speechless at that, and I think the whole world was, and the whole internet was, when it came to that. But enough talking, guys. Let's get into this. Like the video if you do go on to enjoy it. Subscribe for more Arrowverse and DC comic book nerdy stuff like this. And yeah, let's start with right at the beginning with planet Maltus 10,000 years ago, where the Monitor was going to the dawn of time. Now, we were told that we would be getting the origin of the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor, and this was essentially that moment, because as soon as the Monitor arrived in the dawn of time, it happened with some unintended consequences, which basically as a result opened a breach to the antimatter universe, and his more or less doppelganger, the Anti-Monitor, was there. So that kind of, started all of that. And it was just like a really cool scene as well, seeing the Monitor and, his home world, his love, if you will, who was, kind of the Monitor. I kind of like that line. It was just a nice little opening to part 4. And it was kind of a nice little callback as well to when they were even fighting on the Wave Rider, and how Mar-Novi said, "I shouldn't have let you continue with your experiments." I mean, I'm paraphrasing there, but really, he was kind of just talking to himself. But yeah, let's move on to the vanishing point now. That started with Ryan Choi recording a journal, and it was just more or less talking about the hardships people have, been facing since arriving at the vanishing point. Now, this is where Barry Allen came out of nowhere, having been gone for months in the Speed Force. To him, it was only a few seconds, but, was anyone else kind of imagining, like, how stinky, like, everyone must be? I mean, quite literally, they were wearing their suits. I doubt there's a running shower in that vanishing point on that kind of broken ship, but, hey, I think these scenes were delivered pretty well, though, in terms of the characters, because, either way, after what happened to the whole multiverse, I wanted some dramatic acting, and Grant Gustin shines when that happens, and when they were all kind of starting to turn on each other, or should I say they didn't want to turn on each other, that's when real kind of acting chops come out. So we got a little bit of that with the tensions of trying to come up with a way to, bring back the multiverse. But this is when, of course, we got to see Oliver, and I didn't expect the voice change. I mean, at the same time, it's not mega surprising, because he is like this, mysterious Spectre now. But yeah, at first I wasn't sure how to feel about it, but then I felt like it fit. I feel like Stephen Amell did quite a good job acting, as Oliver Queen, but as something else at the same time, because of course he is the Spectre, and that is where pretty much he arrives at the vanishing point just as everyone is falling apart. And the plan at this point was to fight the Anti-Monitor, like some of them, whilst others get sent to stop Mar-Novi on Maltus, or at least try to do that, from doing what he did in an attempt to obviously not begin all of this in the first place with the Anti-Monitor. And this also kind of involved the Spectre, or should I say Oliver, just touching Barry's head and unlocking his potential. What? So since Barry had all of his potential unlocked through Oliver just tapping his forehead, this is when he ran throughout the Speed Force, and then the Anti-Monitor appeared and kind of like pushed him out, if you will, and this is when Barry needed to get Oliver, Kate, Sarah, and John before they kind of fell out of the Speed Force, because Oliver was trying his best to just hold it all together, whilst Barry found each and every one of them. Now, I feel like these scenes were pretty interesting because they all kind of played through different times in the Arrowverse in terms of memories with Oliver. But the most surprising one, which, you know, I feel like I just have to get into straight away, was Ezra Miller's Flash meeting the CW Flash. I feel like I could talk about this forever, and I'm going to try and contain myself just because when I get excited about things, I kind of do blabber on. But yeah, this moment was profound. This moment was definitely an iconic moment just for DC in general. It's something that I don't think anyone could have ever predicted, and I think most people would have just said no, that would probably never happen, just on the basis of the DCEU kind of low-key connecting to the, well, not low-key, it happened, to the CW Arrowverse. Now, I still think that a lot of these cameos, for example, you know, like the DCU Flash, Ezra Miller, and then you have Doom Patrol Titans, I don't think those universes will be affected by the CW, if that makes sense. I feel like those shows will just not really acknowledge that, even though they've been acknowledged in the CW Arrowverse. I feel like this is still a thing that is amazing, and even though all of these cameos appeared in this crossover, I feel like within those separate shows like Titans, you still won't have the opposite of like the CW coming into that, other than Stargirl maybe, because Stargirl is being displayed on the CW. It kind of made me laugh though when Ezra Miller's Flash kind of called the CW suit a cosplay. But yeah, even as Barry said, this kind of shouldn't be possible since there's no multiverse. So like how did the DCU Flash, I mean technically he should have been erased as well, but maybe it's because he was in the Speed Force as well, because this was all happening in the Speed Force. I'm not going to question it too much. Obviously this was just insane fan service. I love how they also included like how Ezra's Barry liked the name Flash. So like, will this be the way he gets his Flash name? I highly doubt that, but it was still cool. I love how he mentioned Victor as well, obviously being Cyborg. But that was just incredible. I'm sure, or maybe you haven't seen that Grant Gustin has posted these photos on his Instagram. An amazingly well-kept secret, but I need to stop talking about this because there's a billion other things to talk about in this crossover. So the other memories consisted of Kate going to an old memory with Oliver and Ray Palmer. John met Oliver and Supergirl in that kind of Hall of Justice, or should I say, you know, Star Labs' abandoned warehouse. Barry also found Lois and Superman and Oliver at the Elseworlds crossover, and this scene had me wondering because we saw it in the trailer, and I remember in the Elseworlds crossover, Oliver practically had a skinhead, and now he had the hair, but now this all makes sense either way. This was a really nice scene because it was kind of the revelation between Barry and Oliver, or should I just say for Barry, because he kind of realized that what Oliver gave up for Kara and Barry as they were fated to die in the Elseworlds crossover. And if it wasn't for Oliver Queen, I don't really need to explain this, but you know, that they wouldn't really be here anymore. So yet again, in part 4, they're doing such a great job at just kind of echoing every few minutes almost this importance of Oliver Queen in the crossover and giving this kind of profound effect to his legacy in the Arrowverse. And that just makes a Green Arrow fan such as myself, with, you know, Arrow and the Flash being my two favorite shows of the Arrowverse, a very, very happy fan. Now, after Barry also found Sarah amongst, you know, Diggle and Laurel back when she was kind of dead on the table, we also had the whole Supergirl and Ryan Choi arriving on Maltus kind of thing, because they kind of wanted to stop the whole Dawn of Time thing from even happening in the first place. Of course, Lex kind of went off wandering, but Supergirl, of course, finds Lex, and this is where he's kind of made some slight modifications to himself. This goes back to the Book of Destiny rewrites, where, of course, he rewrote that he's the paragon of truth instead of the kind of Kingdom Come Superman, if you will, and also with these kind of powers. I thought he would have maybe had devices, but I'm pretty sure I saw those powers coming out of his hands. So yeah, of course, Lex still wants to, you know, have, instead of world domination, but universal domination, a very Lex Luthor thing to do. I think a lot of people, with my criticism of John Crye's Lex Luthor before, thinks I hate the character. I really don't. It's just, as much as I know a lot of people really enjoy this Lex, it's just not the Lex for me. But, you know, I still enjoy Lex scenes. I just would have rathered personally the Brandon Routh Superman to be in parts 4 and part 5, but I still found John Crye's Lex pretty entertaining. Now, the next kind of scenes didn't really amount to anything, because even though Lex did find Mar-Nova and warn him, and this kind of resulted in a Supergirl and Lex fight again, Ryan Choi ultimately really got through to Mar-Nova and warned him about the infinite number of lives that will be lost if he, you know, kind of continues with his time travel to the Dawn of Time. But, it didn't really matter, as I said, because Barry just all of a sudden took them. They appeared at the dawn of time, and this was very confusing to Ryan Choi because he pointed out that he's pretty sure he got through to Mar-Novu, but the cool kind of thing about this is that no matter what, the Anti-Monitor reveals that across the multiverse, there will always be one Mar-Novu who can't really be turned from his towering ambition to go to the dawn of time. So this is where this kind of big battle started to unfold. The Spectre gives them a little bit of a pep talk. They talk about the rebirth of the universe. Now, I was quite excited at this moment because I'm a fan who kind of wants all the Earths to be on one Earth. I know this crossover didn't exactly end like that. I mean, we do have Earth Prime now, and this is more of a comment to be saved for later, but we do still have multiple Earths. But I was looking forward to that merging. I was really looking forward to it. The battle began, and to be honest, I found it a little bit corny at places. I did think that this battle, I think, was a bit better than the end battle, and I'll get to that a little bit later. Not to sound nitpicky at all, I just honestly did find a few of the throwaway lines of when they were fighting a bit cheesy, like, die you creepy shadow things, and then Ryan Choi was doing kick flips and saying a few things. I don't know, it just didn't, it didn't really, I don't know how to explain it. Some of you will just understand. Some of you right now will be like, well, screw you, Bowman, like, you don't, being a hater on the Arrowverse, it's just, I found it a bit corny, is all. Same with the final fight, but we'll get to that. And also, some of the Shadow Demons just decided to wait on the sidelines for some reason. Like, there were tons of them, but there was only some of them coming down every now and again. It's like they were taking turns in a football match, swapping players or something, instead of bombarding the Paragons. However, I do want to acknowledge, just like I always say with certain other shows and stuff, that you could just argue comic book logic that not all of them were engaging with the Paragons because it had something to do with the Spectre holding them back. Now, this is when we had the Spectre versus Anti-Monitor, kind of Harry Potter duel, as I always like to say, with beams, colliding like this. Now, this is the part I did find very cool, and of course, we got the famous line that I'm pretty sure a lot of people predicted as soon as he uttered the words, "You have failed," and then, of course, ending with "this universe." And this is when Oliver died, and I'm gonna just be brutally honest here. As cool as this moment was, and it was a decent send-off for him, I just feel like the first death in part 1 kind of lessened this for me a little bit. I'm not trying to take away from anybody who feels like this was a really iconic moment and really resonated and felt really emotional in this moment. I think we all did. I'm just trying to say that for me, in my personal experience viewing this, I feel like it was taken a little bit away from what we've already seen with the way they already had him, killed. I don't know. That's just at least the way I viewed it. Some of you may feel the same, some of you may not. But either way, what I will say is that, yet again, what I've complimented part 4 for over and over again is that Oliver was right at the center of this episode the whole time, more or less. He was, as some people were saying, the Tony Stark Endgame moment. Now, and I believe in that comparison. This was Stephen Amell's moment, and it was a great way to, ride out of the Arrowverse and end his kind of arc. It was fantastic overall. But I just feel like, it wasn't as sincere for me as I wanted it to be. And then, everyone, we have reached part 5, and this is when Kara woke up, and then she had Alex there, like, kind of acting like she was a crazy person. That's because, of course, Alex wasn't a Paragon, so she doesn't remember all of the crazy stuff that just happened. But the other crazy thing that has happened as a result of this kind of new universe, if you will, is that Lex has won the Nobel Peace Prize, and everyone thinks that Lex is the best guy. So, of course, this is going to have to be resolved on Supergirl, and in the following episodes there, which is quite a crazy plot, to be honest. And this is where John Jones kind of arrives and, says, yeah, don't worry, it's not only you. This has to be a result of the new universe, and there's got to be sure some other changes to come. And I knew when this line was uttered that we'd be seeing examples of that. And of course, that was, led with examples like Weather Witch against Supergirl. Barry arrives and they both think that this is, their Earth. It's like, what are you doing on my Earth? But of course, it's the same Earth. And that's when Marv Wolfman arrives to get them to sign a picture, which was a very meta moment. Of course, Marv Wolfman wrote Crisis on Infinite Earths, so this was just really cool. It also spelled out to the audience that, the Earths have merged. At least, this is Earth Prime, and Supergirl's city is now a part of, Barry's Earth. It's just all blended, which is something I want. The same applies to Black Lightning. The same applies to, other heroes. It's great, apart from Titans, Doom Patrol, and a few others. Now, instead of just the Paragons knowing what happened, of course, during the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths, this is where John Jones was kind of giving like memory dumps to multiple people. So that's when Ray Palmer learned about everything, even learned about his kind of Superman moments, and lots of other people as well. This included Caitlin and other heroes such as Team Arrow. Now, even though the universe has been restored, even with subtle changes, everyone kind of thought that maybe Oliver, at least from Barry and Kara's perspective, that Oliver may be back as well, but I'm not really sure as to why they kind of felt like that would happen, because he did die before the universe was birthed. But I guess maybe they just thought it would reverse that, maybe. But this is where we also had Nash Wells, who was passed out in the sewer. Because of the whole universe coming back, he is no longer a pariah, but he's just, Nash Wells, who will continue to probably be Nash Wells throughout the duration of The Flash Season 6. I felt like it was a really decent moment as soon as he got the memory dump and the gravity of guilt that he just was suddenly given. But, as I said, I'm really looking forward to his character continuing on The Flash. I know people are kind of getting tired of the whole Wells thing, but, Tom Cavanaugh to me is always a bonus on The Flash. So, looking forward to seeing more of this Wells. At this point in the episode, things got very random. We also had Bebo attacking Star City. It just felt extremely random to me. I don't really know. Rory was signing books, and then Bebo was just going ham down a street. It was just a diversion, though, for Sargon the Sorcerer. But either way, back to Nash Wells. He detected the antimatter, and it was just like, the anti-monitor's still around. Shadow Demons try to attack us, they're hunting the Paragons, and I'm still a little bit just like, why do these Shadow Demons get incinerated with just a little punch? I mean, maybe Batwoman, clawing them with a, batarang or whatever makes sense, but, a little punch. You would have thought the Anti-Monitor would have built them a bit more robust than a flick of the wrist, defeating them. But either way, as I said, if you focus too much on stuff like that, it does kind of spoil a bit of it. But, I'd love to know what you think. Do you think things like that should be held up a bit more, in terms of, like, should it be so easy? Or do you just not care because it kind of ruins the larger picture of things? There's a weird fine line there to walk. But anyway, once they realized the Anti-Monitor was still alive, they came up with a plan to shrink the Anti-Monitor for all eternity in the Microverse, which was a very, very nice nod. This is when tons of Shadow Demons were arriving in the city. All the heroes arrived to face off against them. Yet again, with the Shadow Demons, I just spotted, it was the first time I watched it. I mean, I've only seen it once. You gotta love that punch to the air that Martian Manhunter did. I don't know if you go back and watch it, maybe I'm showing a picture on screen right now. He literally punches the air, nothing was there, no shadow. I don't know. This is what I mean. I just found like this part a little bit like underwhelming, and I don't want to, as I said, I'm so careful to piss people off because I am really a fan of this stuff, but I just feel like, I don't want to pretend everything is absolutely freaking amazing when I just don't feel like it is. I still really enjoyed this, don't get me wrong. I feel like I preferred the Battle of the Dawn of Time over this part. Of course, simultaneously, we had a load of Shadow Demons going to Star Labs. We had Killer Frost, Rory, and the return of Black Lightning protecting Star Labs. I'm really happy with Black Lightning being merged with this Earth, and just, protecting and being engaged with all the other characters. I felt like the moment with the Anti-Monitor was pretty cool, but yet again, this was just kind of, I don't know, there's something about it that just didn't feel, it's like, it didn't feel as serious as what it did in the Dawn of Time part. Like, we all knew it was just going to resolve. We didn't necessarily know how. I still enjoyed the moment when he grew, like, huge in size. I was actually wondering if that was going to happen, because on the original concept art, they showed a massive scale Anti-Monitor compared to, like, an Arrowverse hero, so I'm glad they did that. Superman got made to kind of look very weak again. Like, would they ever let Tyler Hoechlin Superman have like a really cool moment? He just was getting crushed by the Anti-Monitor's hands. Ray arrived with the device, gave that to Kara to shrink the Anti-Monitor, and before you know it, the battle was just kind of over. The CGI wasn't perfect, but hey, this is like a TV show. For what they can achieve, it is just fantastic, and what they have already done with Crisis. But as I said, just to reiterate one more time, to me, this final battle just wasn't so great. But like, it is what it is, at least to me. But this is where we had other changes revealed in the crossover, like baby Sarah is back. So if you guys remember, she was erased by Flashpoint, but now she's back. So wow. Clark gets told that he has, has to get back to Metropolis for his sons. So 2 sons. Of course, this is going to factor into the whole kind of spin-off show, where it's going to work with that whole family dynamic. And if you didn't know already, guys, I believe this is very recent news. The CW, in a really interesting move, has ordered that whole Superman and Lois series to order, like the whole series order already, without even waiting for the reception of the pilot. So very interesting news there. Another CW show is already getting a whole season for Superman and Lois. I really enjoyed that moment with Oliver being honored by the presidential address on the anti-Monitor crisis situation. Yet again, the heart of this crossover with Oliver going out of the Arrowverse essentially should be dedicated to him, and it was so, especially in these last moments of part 5. And this is where we kind of got a mirroring moment on when, like, the Monitor gave us an explanation on the multiverse, I believe in part 1 or just an earlier part of Crisis, but it was Oliver's turn. And this is where we got some very interesting reveals. I think a lot of us were expecting a Stargirl cameo, so that is Earth 2 Stargirl, the show that will be coming to the CW, but also DC Universe the day before, I believe. Earth 12 is Green Lantern, so we didn't get a Diggle kind of Green Lantern reveal, but still, this moment was very cool, and I'm sure it made loads of fans jump out of their seats. Oh, Earth 19, guys, I'm sorry if I sound like I'm kind of crying right now, because, they brought Swampy up. They brought Swampy up again. Swamp Thing is Earth 19. Justice for Swamp Thing, seriously. Even though that show got cancelled before episode 1, had nothing to do with the quality of the show, by the way. If any of you are thinking that, go watch it, immortalize it, just watch it as kind of one long movie. Treat it like that. It's a great show. Earth 9, Titans. Earth 21, Doom Patrol. They used a scene, I believe, from the finale, which was pretty cool of them dancing. And Earth 96 is like Kingdom Come Superman, I believe, with just like the symbol pop back on. And then Earth Prime, of course, being our Earth with the new merged cities of like Supergirl, Black Lightning, and all of that. They were honoring Oliver, I guess, in this Hall of Justice-esque, well, Barry called it like this old Star Labs research facility that no one knows exists for them all to gather at, which is basically the beginning of the Arrowverse's Justice League, because that table, that reveal of the table was pretty awesome. It had all of their seats with the symbols on it, with a little empty chair for Oliver there. And even though they say that nobody knows about this place existing, they had Gleek escape, which is, from the Wonder Twins, so it's just like, I was thinking, but who the hell was feeding him? I don't know. Yet again, and you could point out loads of things like this in CW shows, but that was really random. That's obviously to set something up. Maybe to come back next year for the next year crossover, like he will pop in that. Who knows? But either way, that was a really nice ending. Like, I'm sure just as excited as Kara was, many fans were at the prospect of this kind of low-key Justice League being formed. And you have to think in future crossovers, the problems at hand will be discussed at least initially at this table, and it's going to be a really cool sight to see all the heroes have a seat at that. And yeah, that was the end of the crossover, guys. So parts 4 and part 5, I felt did a really good job to wrap up the Crisis on Infinite Earth CW storyline as it stood so far. Overall, I did enjoy the crossover. It was kind of underwhelming at spots. It wasn't as great as kind of I wanted it to be. As I said, doesn't mean I'm a hater. I just, it is what it is. I'm kind of like left wondering at least, where the heck was the Reverse Flash, considering he was like, we'll see you in your next crisis. And I believe one of the promos even had a split second of the Reverse Flash running for the following Crisis on Infinite Earths episode, but he wasn't in it. Maybe that was a consequence of him being left on the cutting room floor. I don't know. Either way, it would have been really cool to see Reverse Flash, but for some reason he wasn't incorporated. But yeah, I would love to know your thoughts down in the comments below, guys. We all have different opinions here. As all baseline, at our bottom line here, we're all fans, I'm sure, of these characters, and you have to commend the CW for what they achieved. It was a decent crossover, and I'm just looking forward to see where the Arrowverse heads next, considering there's been some serious ripple effects from Crisis on Infinite Earths. But other than that, everyone, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like on it, subscribe for all things DC, and of course, if you want to talk about this further, I do have a Discord server. That link will be in the top pinned comment down below, along with my social media and my Patreon if you want to support the channel a bit further. But other than that, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.